I was ready. I was so ready that I had rehearsed my breathing in the mirror for 3 weeks. I was ready to give up everything, my peace, my real self, my comfort, just to get that job. It was the only thing that mattered. But my body, my honest, brutal, traitorous body, it decided to say no more. I was sitting in that interview room, a place made of glass and high dreams, on the 42nd floor of the Zenith building. The air conditioning was humming, a low, expensive sound. Across from me sat Dr. Elvira, the woman who held my future in her manicured hands. And that was when the fire began. It didn't start slowly. It wasn't a gentle warmth. It was an assault. It rushed up from my chest, clawing its way up my neck, painting my cheeks in a painful, throbbing, embarrassing red. My skin was screaming. It was screaming the one thing I had spent 29 years trying to hide. I am not perfect. I am terrified. I am a fraud. I lost the job. I watched Dr. Elvira's eyes shift from interest to titty and then to dismissal. But in that terrible, crushing failure, in the silence of the elevator ride down to the lobby, I finally had to stop and listen. This is the story of how I lost the life I thought I wanted to find the life I actually needed. To understand why a simple blush could destroy my life, you have to understand the house I grew up in. I was 9 years old when I learned that showing emotion was dangerous. My mother, Clara, didn't believe in flaws. She believed in presentation. To her, a family was a performance art piece, and I was the main character who kept forgetting her lines. I remember a specific Tuesday. I had won a drawing contest at school. It was a silly thing, a sketch of a bird. But I was so proud. I came running into the kitchen, laughing, shouting, my face flushed with the pure, unadulterated joy of a child. My mother turned from the stove. She didn't smile. She didn't offer a hug. She pulled me aside, her grip tight on my upper arm, and she spoke in a cold, sharp whisper that cut through my happiness like a knife. "Luana, control yourself," she hissed. "Look at your face. You're blotchy. You look vulgar. People will think you're unstable." I froze. The joy evaporated instantly, replaced by a cold knot of shame in my stomach. I went to the hallway mirror. I looked at my reflection. My cheeks were bright pink, my eyes shining. 10 seconds ago, I thought I looked happy. Now, through my mother's eyes, I looked vulgar. I looked out of control. That was the day I learned the rule: invisible is safe. Visible is dangerous. My rosacea didn't appear overnight. It was a slow accumulation of these moments. It became my life's secret shame. It wasn't just a skin problem. It was the physical scorecard of my mother's judgment. Every time I felt fear, every time I felt anger, every time I felt anything too intensely, my skin would flare. It was the physical result of the rule, never show your feelings. The red skin was my body's desperate way of trying to build a wall against the constant pressure. I was always fighting a war, but not against the world, against the fear I carried inside my own veins. By the time I was a teenager, I had become a master of disguise. I knew every brand of full coverage foundation. I knew how to angle my face in photos so the light wouldn't catch the texture of my skin. I avoided spicy food. I avoided the sun. I avoided running in gym class. I shrunk my life down to a tiny, controlled box where nothing could trigger a flush. I thought I was managing my skin. In reality, I was erasing myself. Fast forward to my late 20s. On paper, I was a success story. I had the degrees, the recommendations, the polished wardrobe.
I was aiming for the position of Director of Communications. It was a role that required absolute poise, unshakable confidence, and public presence. Everything I pretended to have. Everything my skin threatened to expose. I prepared for the interview with Dr. Elvira like a soldier preparing for battle. I put on my best suit, a charcoal gray that screamed authority. I ironed it twice. I did my makeup with surgical precision. Green color corrector to neutralize the red, heavy matte foundation to hide the texture, setting powder to lock it all in. I looked in the mirror and I didn't see Luana. I saw a mannequin. A perfect, impenetrable mannequin. "You can do this," I whispered to the reflection. "Just don't feel, just perform." The waiting room at Zenith Group was designed to intimidate. Minimalist furniture, silent secretaries, walls of glass that looked out over the city. I sat there clutching my portfolio and I started to feel it. The prickle, the heat. It started at the base of my neck under the collar of my silk shirt. My heart rate picked up. No, I told myself, not now. Please, not now. When they called my name, I stood up, took a deep breath, and walked into the lion's den. Dr. Elvira was everything I feared. She was elegant, sharp, and totally controlled. She didn't have a hair out of place. Her skin was porcelain. She looked like a woman who had never felt embarrassed in her entire life. She motioned for me to sit. The first 10 minutes went well. I was on autopilot, reciting the answers I had memorized. I was charming. I was competent. I thought I had tricked my body into submission. Then came the shift. Dr. Elvira leaned forward, clasping her hands on the glass desk. She looked deep into my eyes, searching for something beneath the makeup. "Luana," she said, her voice smooth but probing. "This role isn't just about strategy. It's about crisis management. You will be the face of this company during our worst moments. Tell me about a time you lost control and how you handled it." The question hit me like a physical blow. Lost control. The one thing I was forbidden to do. The one thing my mother punished. The heat surged. It wasn't a slow build this time. It was an explosion. My body reacted to the word control as a threat to its survival. The rosacea broke through the expensive foundation. I could feel it happening. The burning sensation spreading across my nose, my cheeks, my forehead. It throbbed under the bright ceiling lights. I felt naked. I felt the makeup melting, the mask dissolving. I tried to speak. I believe that control is about preparation, I started, but my voice wavered. Dr. Elvira didn't look at my portfolio anymore. She looked straight at my face. Her gaze lingered on the red patches blooming on my cheeks. She saw it. She saw the instability my mother had warned me about. She didn't let me finish. She interrupted, her tone clinical and cold. "Mrs. Davis," she said, "I'm going to be honest. Your resume is impressive, but right now, your skin is showing a violent physical reaction to a simple stress question. Your face is crimson. You're trembling." The silence that followed was deafening. The air conditioning hummed. My heart pounded in my ears. "How can we trust you to manage our public image?" she asked, delivering the final blow, "when you clearly cannot even control your own face." I opened my mouth to defend myself, to say it was just a condition, to say I was capable. But my tongue felt thick, heavy, frozen by the ancient fear. The shame was total. It filled the room. It choked me. I couldn't say the words. I physically failed the most important moment of my career. She didn't hesitate. She stood up, signaling the end. She said, "We will not be proceeding with your application. Thank you for coming in." I don't remember leaving the building. I remember the sensation of the elevator dropping, my stomach turning. I walked to my car in a daze. I sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I didn't cry immediately. I felt hollowed out. I had played the game exactly as I was taught. I had suppressed. I had hidden. I had perfected. And it hadn't worked. The rosacea, the shame, had won. I drove home in silence.
When I walked into my apartment, I didn't turn on the lights. I threw my portfolio on the floor. I kicked off the heels that pinched my feet. I walked straight to the bathroom and turned on the harsh vanity lights. I looked at myself. The foundation was patchy, ruined by the heat and the sweat of my panic. The red blotches were furious, glowing like beacons of my failure. I grabbed a washcloth and I scrubbed. I scrubbed my face violently, washing away the green corrector, the concealer, the powder. I washed away the mask. And there I was, red, raw, imperfect. I sank to the floor of the bathroom. The cold tiles pressed against my legs. And finally, the dam broke. I sobbed. I cried for the job, yes, but mostly I cried for the 9-year-old girl who just wanted to show her drawing. I cried for the teenager who missed pool parties. I cried for the woman who believed she had to be a robot to be worthy of love. I sat there for hours, letting the silence cover me. And then that rock bottom, and that total defeat, a strange thought occurred to me. I am still here. The world hadn't ended. The sky hadn't fallen. I had been exposed. I had been rejected, and yet I was still breathing. I looked at my face in the dark screen of my phone on the floor. I didn't see a failure anymore. I saw a child in pain. I saw a body that was trying so hard to protect me, to scream the truth I refused to speak. I put my hand on my hot cheek. The skin was burning, but my hand was cool. And I whispered the words that finally broke the old rule, the words my mother never let me say. I am scared. And that is okay. I stopped fighting the symptom. I stopped trying to hate the rosacea. I closed my eyes and allowed the heat to be there. I felt the pulse in my cheeks. I felt the shame. I didn't push it away. I let the fear pass through me, not as an enemy, but as a messenger. I focused my mind completely on the present moment. Not on the past humiliation, not on the future unemployment, just the now. The sensation of air in my lungs, the ground beneath me, and in that simple act of self-acceptance, something miraculous happened. The intense, paralyzing shame began to melt away. The heat didn't vanish, but it stopped hurting. It just was. The days that followed were different. I didn't apply for more jobs immediately. I spent time walking. I spent time breathing. I realized that the healing began not when the redness disappeared, but when I chose the truth over the disguise. I realized that my sensitivity wasn't a problem to be fixed. It was a skill. It was empathy.
It was a finely tuned radar. If I felt stress, my body told me instantly. If I was in a toxic environment, my face let me know. I wasn't defective. I was highly calibrated. I decided then and there I would no longer beg for approval. I would trade my authenticity. But there was one final thing I had to do. The root of the trauma. 3 weeks after the interview, I drove to my mother's house. It was a Sunday. The house was perfect, as always, not a speck of dust. My mother was in the sitting room, reading. She looked up when I entered. She scanned my face immediately. I wasn't wearing foundation. My cheeks were naturally pink, slightly flushed from the drive. She said, "Luana, you look tired. And your skin, have you not been using the cream I sent you?" In the past, I would have apologized. I would have run to the bathroom to fix it. But today, I sat down across from her. I kept my back straight. I felt the familiar heat rising in my neck, the old trigger, but this time I didn't fear it. I welcomed it. It was my fuel. I said, "Mother, I didn't use the cream, and I have something to tell you." She stiffened. "What is it? Did you get the job?" "No," I said. "I lost the job. I lost it because my face flushed during the interview. I lost it because I could not control my reaction." My mother's face crumbled into disappointment. "Oh, Luana, I told you that you needed to manage yourself better. How embarrassing." That did hurt. And for the first time, I didn't see a giant. I saw a small, frightened woman. I saw a beggar. She wasn't powerful. She was begging for control to soothe her own deep-seated fear of judgment. She had passed her trauma down to me like an heirloom, and I carried it for too long. I said, "I'm not embarrassed." The words hung in the air. She blinked. "Excuse me?" I said, "I lost the jockey because I failed to honor the woman I am. I spent 30 years trying to be the statue you wanted me to be, cold, perfect, unsealing. But I'm not a statue, Mother. I am fire. I feel things, I flesh, I cry, and I will no longer apologize for my sensitivity." I leaned forward. "My face will no longer be your battlefield. I love you, but I'm done hiding." She sat there in stunned silence. She didn't know what to do with a daughter who wasn't afraid of her own reflection. I stood up and I walked out of that house. I walked out to my car and I noticed something. The fear left me. My shoulders dropped 3 inches and my skin felt cool. Seeing that the war was finally over, the body relaxed. The rosacea subsided dramatically, not because of a pill, but because the internal threat was gone. I didn't get the job at Zenith, and thank God for that. It would have killed me. 2 months later, I started my own consultancy. I help companies communicate with empathy. I walk into meetings with my natural skin. Sometimes I flush. Sometimes I get red when I'm passionate about an idea. And you know what? People trust me. They trust me because they can see I'm not hiding anything. I am the trader now. I offer my true, sensitive, powerful self, and I received freedom. I received connection. To every person listening to this who tries to be perfect, who carries the burden of a secret flaw, you lose the battle when you try to hide. Your skin is not a traitor. It is not an enemy. It is a loyal soldier guarding your inner truth. It's waving a red flag saying, here is where you need to be kinder to yourself. The most important discipline you can master is not skincare routines or emotional suppression. It is training your mind to focus on your inherent value, even when a critic tells you otherwise. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are whole. Your vulnerability is your greatest superpower. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you put down your mask.